During a large-scale animal emergency, whether due to a natural disaster or to animal disease, effective disposal of carcasses is a critical part of a successful response effort. When faced with the disposal of a large number of carcasses, there are various options, including burial, rendering, burning, and composting. In recent years, it has become clear that composting is one of the most effective methods with the fewest negative outcomes. Composting is a natural carcass management method that involves biomass decomposition through mixing or layering carcasses with organic material. The decomposition process requires nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, and moisture for optimal tissue breakdown. The heat generated during this decomposition is sufficient to inactivate many pathogens. Composting is currently used for routine livestock disposal on some operations. If Kansas would need to dispose of large numbers of animals, it would be critical to have a trained subject matter expert to lead each composting site. We could have multiple sites over the course of many weeks and would need to have multiple trained subject matter experts. A few years ago, exercises to test the process and available resources highlighted the fact that Kansas had only one livestock compost subject matter expert, who was soon to retire. We knew we couldn't rely on other states or federal agencies because a nationwide foreign animal disease outbreak would mean there wouldn't be enough help, as livestock compost subject matter experts are required during a foreign animal disease outbreak. So the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Division of Animal Health developed a program to train new subject matter experts. Requirements to be trained in compost work include 10 days of on-site experience at a composting site, usually due to a real emergency, which is impossible to control or predict. So we replaced the real emergency with a 2-week hands-on composting experience. This exercise had realistic conditions and real composting. An ideal composting site must be large enough to accommodate all of the carcasses and other contaminated material, as well as storage for the materials needed for composting. It should be located where the slope encourages on-site drainage and in an area that meets environmental requirements, and it is preferred to not be in a floodplain. Runoff controls may be needed, which could be a grass buffer, a retention structure, or another approved method. It will need to be stable enough to accommodate heavy equipment to work with the carcasses and the compost site. Another consideration in site selection is the local availability of large quantities of carbon matter, both as a cover material and as a thick base layer. Carbon matter can include wood chips, sawdust, ground straw, ground corn stalks, or other similar material. For normal operations, composting needs a permit from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. During disaster and foreign animal disease events, KDHE can issue temporary permits. Compost sites typically are made by constructing long windrows, which are trapezoidal-shaped compost piles in long, uncovered rows. Windrows are usually 6 to 8 feet high and 12 to 15 feet wide. Windrows should be placed 10 to 20 feet apart for worker and equipment access. The base layer is made of a thick layer of carbon material onto which the carcasses are placed. The pile is then capped with a blanket of more carbon material at least 8 inches to a foot thick. This carbon-based cover serves to protect against predators, to reduce attraction of insects, and to minimize odors.
It's a farm operation. It's not any different than a normal farm operation, really. I mean, it's clean, well kept. There's nothing that, to me, would detract me from a normal agricultural operation. I mean, I would expect in the rural area to find something like this.
When outdoor composting is conducted at a proper site, the risk of environmental contamination is low. The temperature achieved during properly managed composting will kill the pathogens, reducing the chance to spread disease. The core pile temperature should rise to 135 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit within 15 days and then be maintained for 72 hours. Interventions such as turning the pile may be required to maintain the desired temperatures and can also help increase the speed of decomposition. Carcasses can be composted whole or, to speed the process, can be ground and mixed with carbon material. Composting has a number of advantages as a method for disposing of large numbers of animal mortalities. One of the most critical advantages is that when done correctly, composting is effective in disease eradication. It will inactivate the foot and mouth disease virus, avian influenza virus, and many other viruses in a matter of weeks.
Well, I think our primary purpose is destruction of the pathogen. The principles of moisture, the chimney effect, and the capping of the product, where as we've been through our 2-week part here, a pile constructed correctly will get to the temperatures required to destruct the pathogen.
Compared to other disposal methods, composting reduces the risk of groundwater contamination, air pollution, and farm-to-farm disease transmission when performed properly under the guidance of a composting subject matter expert. In addition, composting creates a useful byproduct, as the compost that results can serve as a nutrient-rich product that can be applied to land to improve soil texture and to increase crop productivity.
You have a livestock loss, but you can use up some carbon material, and then at the end of the time frame for composting, you have a usable product. And with fertilizer prices right now, that's a huge benefit.
Outdoor windrow composting can be adapted for a large number of animals. This method is feasible for any size of animal, and the length of the windrow can be increased to accommodate additional carcasses, limited only by the amount of available space and suitable carbon material. Thanks to the training program through the Kansas Department of Agriculture with funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Kansas now has nearly a dozen composting subject matter experts who are prepared to help in the event of an incident which would require their expertise. This project has greatly increased KDA's ability to fulfill our mission and responsibility to respond effectively and efficiently to a foreign animal disease outbreak or a natural disaster.